welcome to the Black Gay Weddings Rainbow Room. I'm Lawrence Broughton, co-founder and CEO of Broughton Media Group, LLC, the parent company of Black Gay Weddings.
Hello, and I am Michael Broughton, co-founder and COO. Today we are going to have a conversation about Black love on Valentine's Day.
Today we have an actress, singer, author, and activist whose body of work spans decades, from Hollywood to Broadway, from Tinseltown Mom to Dream Girl. Joining us here in the BGW Rainbow Room is the original diva, Mrs. Sheryl Lee Ralph.
Also joining us today is an accomplished and nationally recognized LGBTQ civil rights lawyer and advocate. He is the president of the Human Rights Campaign, the first civil rights lawyer, and the first person of color to serve as president of the HRC since its founding, Mr. Alphonso B. David.
Two amazing advocates here in the BGW Rainbow Room to talk about LGBTQIA love in the Black community. Are you ready to get this conversation started?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Let's zoom.
Hello and welcome to you both. Thank you for taking the time to stop by the BGW Rainbow Room and being a part of a conversation about Black love.
On Valentine's Day. All right.
I love Valentine.
Yeah, we do too. Can't you tell? I'm dressed up.
Red, honey.
All right. We've developed a few questions to help guide the conversation today, but this is a conversation. So please feel free to add to the discussion if the spirit moves you. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so Sheryl, the first question is for you.
Yes.
As a fierce advocate for LGBTQIA rights, do you believe the Black community is more accepting or less accepting of LGBTQIA love since marriage equality became the law of the land?
You know, that's such a wonderful question because in the time that has passed, I think we're far more aware, but I don't know if we are as accepting. You know, there's so many layers to the LGBTQIA community that very often all of that change is so hard for people, especially Black folks in church.
Amen.
So often, I always say when I hear these conversations, and I don't know why recently, I've been hearing people use words like an abomination against God and a great sin. And I always have to say, we're talking about human beings.
Yes.
People who are human beings, who are, for the most part, church people. And I'm sure, and people are always shocked by this when I say, I'm sure you go to church with gay people. They might not tell you out loud that they're gay, but they're gay. They are. And I'm sure you love them.
Yes.
If they were to come out and tell you their truth, would that love change? What if all of us who go to church had to walk the streets like they had to do of old and raise your hand and say unclean, unclean, liar, adulterer, I cheat on my taxes every year. Do you love those people any less?
Exactly.
And it's hard for people to answer those simple questions. So are we more accepting based upon what I've been hearing just these past weeks out loud? Because for some reason, right about now, people feel empowered to tell you exactly how they feel, even on difficult subjects.
Right.
So I'm hearing more people's truths, and I am not quite sure that we are more accepting. In fact, if you step outside of the United States, there are maybe only 22 nations in the continent of Africa where you can be free. In the Caribbean, I don't know about the island that you can be free, where people will stand up for you
Right.
if you are openly gay, if you are an open member of the LGBTQ community. So when you ask me that question, I know there are those who are more free and open to talk about the issue, but are they accepting of the issue? I'm not quite sure about that. In fact, I don't think so.
All right. Alphonso, you have anything to add to that?
Oh, yes.
Let's have chat.
I agree with Sheryl. You know, we are facing challenges all over the world. Sheryl mentioned in certain parts of Africa where being LGBTQ, unfortunately, is criminal. In fact, in 69 countries, 69 countries around the globe, it is illegal to be LGBTQ. In 9 countries, you can be killed simply for being LGBTQ. So we have a lot of work to do. I want to say 2 things on this subject. One is about religion, because I think sometimes we forget that religion has been used as a tool of oppression. Religion was used to justify colonization.
Yes.
Religion was used as a tool to justify slavery.
Yes.
Religion was used as a tool to oppress women.
Ooh.
Religion was used as a tool to separate interracial couples. So this idea that people are embracing radical love, which is what God talks about, radical love, right? God loves me radically. Why is it that God loves me with radical love, but you, as a disciple of God, can't love me with the same radical love? So it's incredibly important that we take away this perspective that some people have that religion is actually being used as a tool to protect us, when in fact, in many cases, it has been used as a tool to oppress us. And we have so much work to do, the cultural change work of educating people, reminding people of how religion has been used to oppress marginalized communities, and LGBTQ people are no different.
That's right.
And that's the work we have to do in Jamaica. That's the work we have to do in Liberia. That's the work we have to do in other parts of the country, in other parts of the globe, to make sure that people see that we're not bringing Western philosophy with us. Actually, religion was brought to us and used to colonize us, not the other way around. And LGBTQ people have been around forever.
Yes.
And I hope that as we continue to do this work of cultural change, we will create more awareness, and to Sheryl's point, hopefully more acceptance.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you just said what you said. Religion has been used for centuries to hold us down, to separate us. You know, it's funny, every time people want to question about, the Bible. They want to question about what it is we should believe. I said, if you want to figure out what we should believe, what we should be thinking about, only read the red parts. Just read the red parts in the Bible, the parts that Jesus himself was supposed to have said, because Jesus never said anything about, I think we should hate on those people because they're like that, and we should hate on those people because they're like that. In fact, we only walk with these people because I like them. There is nothing like that in the Bible that Jesus himself was supposed to have said.
Right. And as the grandson of a Southern Baptist minister and ordained deacon, it took me a long time to come to grips with loving myself because of who I was. So I had to overcome the indoctrination, if you would, to learn how to love. First, I had to learn to love me, and then I was open to discovering love with my husband, and we've been together 15 years now.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
And we're both preachers' children. Isn't that interesting? PKs.
There you go, real PKs.
All right.
So this question is for you, Alphonso. Do you think that Black people experience unique obstacles when pursuing romantic love? If so, what are they? And how did you overcome them in your journey with love?
Well, short answer to your question is yes. I believe that Black people do confront unique obstacles when pursuing romantic love. First, you alluded to this, that there's a matter of self-love. something that many Black people struggle with, particularly in the United States and other parts of the world, where we are taught that we are not worthy of self-love. Just think about some of the themes of self-hatred that are reflected in Toni Morrison's landmark book, The Bluest Eye, or the doll test. I don't know if you've heard of the doll test, right?
Yes.
Where children were asked to pick between a white doll and a Black doll.
Yes.
And the children, including Black children, overwhelmingly chose the white doll as the good doll, the better doll, the more attractive doll.
Mhm.
Much of this type of self-hatred still persists today.
Yes, it
Now,
does.
in addition, I'm sorry, Sheryl, go on.
No, I'm saying yes, it does, because I remember the paper bag test.
Oh, wow. Oh, I heard about that.
The paper
Yes.
bag test. You know, they would have these social organizations, and you were given entrance into the social organization if you could pass the paper bag test. Because if you were darker than the paper bag, you were persona non grata or negrita non grata. How about that?
Wow.
So a lot has been placed on our plate about how acceptable we are to others, our own people, based upon the shade of our skin,
Yes.
the width of our nose. That my daughter went to an event the other day wearing a mask, and a man had the nerve to say to her, "Could you remove your mask?" And my daughter said, "No, this is the time of Corona, COVID-19. Have you heard of it?" And he said, "Well, I just need to ask you, is your nose straight or is your nose wide?"
Wow.
And that happened this week.
Wow.
And it's only Wednesday. How about that?
Wow. Yes,
It's-
colorism is a very huge issue. Even I have struggled myself with my own complexion because of things that people have said over time. Well, you know, if you're darker, you know, they're not gonna consider you for this or that because
Right.
and they've always kind of drawn. Even in Asia, I've noticed the lighter your skin, the higher up you're considered in class. And I thought, well, wow, we're not the only race of people that have issues struggling with colorism. So
Colorism and the
Lots to be
issue of
done.
colorism and how we value people is in just about every race. My son had a physical therapist who was Korean.
Mhm.
And in my eyes, she's a fair woman, right? And I said, you're such a beautiful young woman. And she said, "But I'm so dark."
Mm.
And I thought to myself, like you said, well, we're not the only one with that sickness. But once again, so many of us, no matter who we are, have these issues about what Alphonso just said. How do I love me? Do I love myself? And that is where it all starts. Because if you, as the great drag queen says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you can love
yes.
Yeah.
It's so real that, you know, we have to overcome this challenge of self-love. And then let's just assume we do that, right? Let's assume that we're able to overcome this sickness of, you know, self-hatred. Then there's the challenge of romantic love, because Black people share the obstacles that everybody else shares. But in addition to those, we have discrimination, we have stereotyping, we have colorism, and then that complicates the experience and in some instances, the pursuit of romantic love.
Yes.
And then once we have romantic love, is a matter of maintaining it. So
Yeah.
loving as a Black person is almost like trying to cook in the kitchen with one hand and then holding up another with the bulwark of racism.
Okay.
And the internal work of keeping alive romantic love while fighting hard to keep outside influences from seeping into the foundation of self-worth that sort of cracks the integrity of who we are is a real commitment, is a lifelong commitment that Black people have to make to maintain romantic love. So first we have to address the self-hatred and self-worth or lack of self-worth that in some instances is indoctrinated in us. And then we have to live within a society where we can or should be able to maintain romantic love. And that's the conundrum. That's the challenge, the unique experiences that we face as Black people and people of color.
Easy too. It's not easy as well, because this is hundreds of years of telling us that we are less than. And we have found within our own survival different levels of how am I going to feel good about myself. And very often we feel better about ourselves when we're able to put somebody else down instead of bringing somebody else up.
Sheryl, I feel like I'm in church with you today.
I know. I'm like, where's the collection plate and the deacons so we can get this plate going? No.
Along the lines of the previous question, love is love, Sheryl. But we are still hearing from couples who submit to Black gay weddings that some vendors refuse to provide services. Some venues refuse to host weddings because it goes against their faith and beliefs. What would you say to a couple who was rejected by a vendor or venue?
Oh, there've been so many. And there've been so many.
Yes.
And once again, because we started out this way, I'm going to take it right there. What about those who have been rejected from their church and told to leave?
Yes.
I will never forget, doing Divas Simply Singing, believing that you love who you love your friends, you love them because of the human beings that they are. And a woman from a very prominent church took time to write me a letter and tell me that God would find no favor in me because I spend too much time with those people. And I had to know in my heart that there was a sickness in that woman, in that woman's church, that I could not have faith and praise with them because God could not possibly be in that church.
Yes.
So I had to at once know my own worth, my own value, and carry on. So if you go someplace and they reject you, that's not where you're supposed to be. Don't spend time with those people who don't want you because you don't want their food. You don't want their cake. You don't want their space. And I think sometimes when those things happen to people, that's what helps you empower yourself to open your own doggone venue.
Yes.
Your own doggone TV show.
Yeah.
Have your own interviews and get your own story out there. Some of those stumbling blocks, some of those blocks are to help you get strong so you can leap over that and say, oh, I see why you were there. Oh, because there's more work that I need to do on myself. So let people know about that church. Let people know about that organization, but go where you are welcome. Go where you are celebrated. And sometimes you got to go right back home and start all over again, because that's what you got to do. Where the money reside, where the money reside.
And that's the whole reason we created this platform from our own experience. We were featured in a bridal publication and we were dragged by the followers. And we just thought, what are we doing? Yes. Why don't we create a space? And, I think someone said, if you won't give us a seat at the table, then we'll make our own. Exactly. And that's exactly what we did, because we noticed not just us, but other couples that had beautiful stories. They were also dragged, and it was like, you know what? No.
And then some of the other mainstream publications that they submitted to wouldn't show them in their magazines, and the weddings were beautiful. I don't understand why not. And then someone said on a Zoom conference, well, it's all about the algorithms, the algorithms actually favor white couples.
Yes, he's being nice. The person pretty much said that white people were more marketable and they just weren't checking for people of color, especially Black gay people. So, and that was
what you do, though. You accept that information, take it for what it is, and then, like I said, do your own thing. And then work upon your own algorithms, because the truth is all in the numbers.
And here we are, Black gay weddings.
Now, Alphonso, anything you want to add to that last question?
No, I just want to say fantastic and thank you for doing what you do. Cheryl's point, You saw, other people saw obstacles, you saw an opportunity, and you created an opportunity not only for yourselves, but for so many other same-sex couples that are being rejected or being alienated on a day that they should be celebrated. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this is for you, Alphonso. How does love inform your work in civil rights?
Love is at the heart of my work for civil rights. I mean, love allows us to see life from an entirely different perspective. It's what gives us the grace that's necessary to see the similarities between the plight of someone and the plight of someone else. And it's what allows us to really engage in the fight in the way that we need to, and importantly, through an intersectional lens, right? Because if we're able to see beyond ourselves, if we're able to put ourselves in the shoes of others, then maybe we're able to get to that place that we call equality. Then maybe we're able to achieve liberation. It is because of love that, you know, I am able to see the humanity in other people. And we should be able to see the humanity in a Black trans woman who's fearful for her life on a daily basis, because we had, unfortunately, more than 44 transgender and non-binary people killed last year, right? It's because of love that we have to be able to see beyond our own reality and open our eyes and see the realities of others. And that is what really informs my work, because if we think about how we achieve equality, we don't achieve equality through our eyes. Right. It's not because I'm fighting for my rights. I'm fighting for the rights of our global community. That is the only way that we achieve equality. And I do that through the lens of love, because I think that's the only way that we can actually sustain the achievement when we get there. That's the only way we can achieve it. I don't believe any marginalized community, any minority group has really ever achieved liberation, at least in the United States. Not Black people, not brown people, not women, not LGBTQ people. And we have to think about, how do we get to that place? And we can only do that through the lens of love and through the lens of intersectionality.
We talk about, you know, I hear you say through the lens of love, and we look at some of what's been happening, you know, the past year. And, you know, more and more, we realize that there's some people who do not value love. There are some people who do not know how to love. And I've seen the opposite of love rear its head. And I think now is the time where we even have to be stronger in our love for other human beings, and especially for those who don't look like us, who are not like us, but through our loving lens, carry on. Because I believe that as people of color, Black, it is our ability to forgive and love that has helped us carry on these hundreds of years and grow against all odds.
You know, Sheryl, you just gave me goosebumps, because I'm rereading The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. And what you just said was as if it was lifted from those pages. He talked about, in order for us to survive and actually thrive as Black people, we have to exercise an element of love for the other, for the people that treat us like the other, in order for us to actually get to that place. Because you're right, the system was created in such a way to intentionally oppress Black people. And how do we operate within that system and the remnants of it that still exists today?
When I hear you say that, and I just want to say, I'll never forget that in the midst of my friends dying during the AIDS pandemic, I remember when everything seemed lost, that there were those who said, we must be strategic about our next moves. And I believe that if we were to able to apply that same thing right now, when Black is beautiful, when Black is powerful, when Black is what people want to buy, it'll make all the difference. We are at the Rubicon, and we need to make sure that we are up to that journey, because we can do it.
Yes,
and
we
now
can.
is the time.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Woo. I'm just
Take
over
a
here
break.
finally amen. Just like,
Although the LGBTQIA love is increasingly being seen in the mainstream media, do you believe the entire LGBTQIA community is being equally and accurately represented?
Is it equal? No, it's not equal. Is it better? Yes, it's better. I mean, just what, 10 years ago, I played a trans woman on Barbershop, you know, the series Barbershop.
Mhm.
It was offered to me. Would I take that role today? No, because you've certainly got enough actresses out there that can play the role.
And I think that we've seen some significant changes in media and media representation of LGBTQ people. But we should, to Cheryl's point, I think I want to just underscore how important it is that we appreciate that the representation does not equate with the reality. Yes, we're seeing more trans representation, but we're also seeing less Black representation in media, Black gay men in media versus other parts of our community. Should it all be equal? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I think that we need to always think about how we evaluate success with respect to representation of our community in the media. And we also have to keep in mind that that representation does not equate with the reality. The reality is 44 trans and non-binary people were killed last year in the United States alone. The reality is that trans people, their unemployment rate for trans people is in some states 3 times the unemployment rate of the general population. So when we look at the reality and things that we have to do to change that reality, we can certainly use the media representation to help inform people and raise awareness. It doesn't mean that we let go of the importance of the advocacy work that we have to do, because we have a lot of work to do to increase awareness and actually change laws and policies to provide support for trans people all over the country and in fact around the globe.
in a conversation about Black love, what would you say to a Black transgender man or woman who believes they will never know love?
Oh, first of all, no matter who you are, if you start believing that you will never know love, you will never know love. You've got to believe that you are worthy of love, and love is coming to find you just as you are.
I agree. I mean, this goes back to, self-love.
Yes.
We are all deserving of love, all of us. Doesn't
Yes.
matter where you come from, doesn't matter how you identify. We all deserve love. And there is someone out there, and there are people out there who are willing and ready to love you.
Yes.
Come on now.
Believe that it's possible, and then it will happen.
I love that. There is somebody out there willing and ready to love you. That's what you need to believe. That's what you need to believe.
Alphonso, beyond legislation, what more do you believe can be done to normalize LGBTQIA relationships in the Black community?
Well, I think of my work at the Human Rights Campaign as the work of engaging in cultural change, right? I think that we need a cultural shift.
Yes.
And we need to lead with a message of inclusion.
Yes.
And we need to make sure that our organizations center intersectionality, not as ancillary to their missions, but actually as a core principle to what they do. We have to empower the younger generation to lead with innovative collaborations between various communities. So Black, LGBTQ, any other community that we think we need to sort of build and leverage those relationships and make sure that we're looking at our work through an intersectional lens. Because if we unite, then we actually will be able to overcome all of our opponents. We're able to overcome people that use religion in a way to oppress us.
Yes.
And so we need to start thinking about how we can all collectively engage in this work of cultural change, not just some of us who are in the advocacy world or the government or litigation or legislation, but all of us actively engage in the process of, I'm going to do my part to make sure that I'm participating in the work of cultural change. And you decide what that is. But if we all participate, then I think we can actually achieve something really transformative and sustainable.
That part right there. But once again, we've got to get through all of those layers.
Yes.
All of those layers. We've got to love ourselves enough to look at somebody else and say, okay, I see you, I get you, we can work together just as you are, just as I am. And sometimes those things are so simple, it's complicated for people.
No, I know. Yeah, actually, I was in the military for 24 years, so hiding in plain sight.
In plain sight.
Remember what you said when I would call and you were away in Afghanistan? It was Afghanistan.
I was deployed to Afghanistan.
And remember what you said?
Yo,
and I was like, what?
Yo, what's up, bro? How's it going?
I would be holding the phone like, who is he talking to? What is going on? And it would be in code. And I'm like, are you talking to me? But you know, the whole don't ask, don't tell thing. There was so much going on. So yeah, he had to hide, but we don't have to hide anymore. Thank God. No, that was not fun. I did not enjoy that. This
don't ask was a burden.
Yes,
it
was.
It was. It truly was. And this is for you, my favorite diva. The Divinely Inspired, Victoriously Aware Foundation has been educating people of color for 30 years on the importance of HIV testing and prevention. How much of a role do you think self-love and mental health play in a person's willingness to get tested?
Oh my God. It really is everything. And you know, more and more as we deal with Corona and COVID, I see it again. It's about people's self-worth, how much people value themselves. How much are people willing to get themselves to a doctor to get a simple checkup? Forget about being tested, but to get a simple checkup. I will never forget, I was once again, it was New Orleans, and I had been speaking at, I think it might have been Essence Fest, and a beautiful young man walked up to me and he said, Miss Ralph, you spoke at my college. And he said, I listened to you and I heard you. And he said, because of what you said, I went and I got tested. And you were talking about me. And he said, that's my mother over there. And I don't want you to cry because we have both cried for me already. But I know my status now. And I thank you for making me love myself more. But I need more of us to show up in our lives just as we are, as human beings, as people, willing to get in there and go to bat for ourselves and for others. Alphonso says it. If we can find the strength in ourselves, the strength in our own unity, being together to take this fight, to take this walk together, that changes everything.
Yeah, said I wasn't gonna cry. It's just so important that people know the importance of getting tested, and there's such a stigma behind HIV, and it really does need to stop. It really does. I just commend you for the amazing work that you do. I still remember he took me to, when I first relocated to LA, he took me to see Diva Simply singing, and I left there with I was so overwhelmed. So I've lost quite a few friends to HIV, and I can't talk anymore, so I'm gonna get emotional, but just thank you so much for what you do. It means so much to our community.
And you know what? I always end it, 30 years, I can't believe it. And I always say, until such time as there's a cure, there'll always be a need for divas simply caring. Divas, divinely inspired, victoriously awesome, people just caring about other people. Awareness matters. Your self-worth matters. And that's why we have once a year, every year, a night where we just love on people and let them know they're being loved. Oh, honey, when we made it to doggone KTLA this year, there was one group that stood out that we, you know, when they do the numbers, when all the numbers come in, men who had finished watching football came to Divas and stayed with us till the end of the show. Wow. So it just goes to show, sometimes people just got to get to know you.
Yes.
For them to realize how much they love you, just the way you are. That's what I'm saying.
Alphonso, the next question is for you. Do you think a stigma still exists in the Black community surrounding HIV and AIDS? And what impact do you believe a positive diagnosis has on a Black person looking for love?
Yes, unfortunately, there is still stigma, and very much alive in many communities. HIV/AIDS, as we all know, is very much alive and well, right? Many people think that HIV is dead, but it's not. It is unfortunately thriving in Black and brown communities, and stigma and homophobia and transphobia and racism and lack of access to healthcare are significant barriers to HIV prevention and care. There's a statistic that I'm going to reference here because I think it's important for us to ground ourselves in the impact that HIV is having in our communities. 1 out of 2 Black, gay, and bisexual cisgender men will be diagnosed with HIV in their lifetime. 1 out of 2.
You got to let that sink in. You got to let that sink in, because we just don't want to hear or accept that it is that real 40 years into this disease still for us.
Right.
So you think about it, both of you are sitting there, I'm looking at one screen. Based on the statistics, you know, one partner in a relationship will be diagnosed with HIV in their lifetime. And that's completely unacceptable. You know, HIV it carries a stigma, and it's associated with a fair amount of discrimination. Right. And we have to do better. So I recently worked with Gilead to announce a $3.2 million grant where we're going to be working in the South to provide prevention, resources, services, public education, working with historically Black colleges and universities to make sure we provide information and increase the awareness for Black men, brown men all over the country, because these numbers are unacceptable. And if for Black men is 1 out of 2, for Latinx men is 1 out of 4. Wow. So HIV is very much alive in Black and brown communities, and we need to make sure that we do everything we can to fight, to make sure that we have access to resources, to make sure that we increase the level of awareness among people all over the country.
I love that you're working with Gilead, because I too am working with Gilead, and on March 10th, we're going to be doing an open forum for women, for the sisters to have an open conversation about them taking hold of themselves, their health, and their well-being. And I thank Gilead for working with great people and trusted voices, yes, so that we can get this message out for us. It's so important.
And Sheryl, to put a final point on this, because I think just to give people some context, for the past 4 years, I don't want to get overly political here, but for the past 4 years, we had resources dwindle for HIV care and prevention. We had an HIV/AIDS working group or advisory group or whatever it's called that was effectively dismantled on the federal level. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that our communities are protected. LGBTQ communities, Black communities, brown communities that unfortunately are being disproportionately impacted by the epidemic.
I think we have just a few more questions. And this one's for Sheryl. Black Gay Weddings is a site dedicated to showcasing the love of LGBTQIA+ couples of color. But our Block Squad have to remove hateful comments every day. What would you say to a woman who says, This is a damn shame. And this is why I can't find a man. We get that. All the time. And I'm like, what?
First of all of the men in the world are not gay. And if you were to embrace a more loving attitude, if you were to love yourself more and give you the ability to love others, you would probably have 3 or 4 men out there chasing you down, because trust me, it all starts with you. Yeah. And it's not some gay man's fault that you don't have a man.
Tells it like it is.
Yeah. Yes. Anything to add, Alphonso?
I'm not touching that, Sheryl.
All right.
Sheryl said it all.
Alphonso, you wrote an open letter to Black LGBT youth, and one of the lines really stood out for me, and it was this one. My plea to you during this Black History Month is to dare to change history. And it starts by making sure that you honor the image reflecting back at you in the mirror and that you survive and thrive. Why did you decide to write this letter now, and what was your inspiration for this particular line? Dare I say passage?
Well, I wrote this letter now because Black LGBTQ people are living in a world full of threats to their lives. COVID-19, police shootings, the rising tide of violence against Black trans women, the rise of white supremacy. So I wanted them to know that there is more than enough reason for them to hope, to then just hope. I want them to think about thriving at all levels that we as a community have never known. I also wanted them to make sure that they know that they are loved and that there are people in this fight at all levels of the movement who are thinking about them. And I wanted to encourage them to dare to dream higher than what they may have imagined before.
Yes.
And to see them, I want to make sure they know that we see them. We see their value and we need them in this fight, which is why I wrote that letter to them for this Black History Month.
Well, it spoke to me.
It was an amazing letter.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Absolutely.
Advocating for the entire community as a whole.
I know you have to run, have another meeting, but thank you so
very much
for stopping by the BGW Rainbow Room and gracing us with your presence. And I speak on behalf of the entire BGW community when I say thank you. This has been an honor and it has been very informative.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care now. We have one more question for you.
Go ahead.
So, finally, little Black boys and little Black girls can look at their parents and say, I want to be president. And those words can ring true. What does it mean to you personally that we now have the first woman of color as president of the United States of America? Vice president.
Oh, well.
Vice president.
First of all.
Give another presidency. Vice president.
I thought you were talking about me. I actually do play the president of the United States in the series Motherland Fort Salem. Yeah. So I actually do get to be Madam President for a few episodes. But when I look at Madam Vice President, Kamala Harris, and I see her standing in lockstep with the president. Now, she ran for president. That didn't happen. She got to the vice presidency because, see, God was ordering those steps. God had a plan in action that said, I'm going to season you for the time to come when you will be President of the United States of America.
Yes.
So when I look at Kamala Harris, I feel great pride. I am so proud. And I just want you to know one more thing, that when I asked Kamala Harris to please give statements for the 29th and the 30th Divas Simply Singing to talk about the work that is needed around HIV and AIDS and other life-threatening diseases, she was right there and did not hesitate. So I'm just happy that we've got her in power to break every tie. Come on come on now. I'm just like the future is Black woman. And like I always said, vote like a Black woman. Thank you. So I hope that answers your question, because I feel good.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you so much for stopping by the Rainbow Room and gracing us with your presence. You know, I speak on behalf of the Black gay weddings community when I say you are so needed, because you do nothing but give us love and inspiration every single day. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I tell you, when we say love is love is love, let us not take it for granted, because everybody thinks that love is something that everybody gets. Not everybody gets it. And that's why you've got to make sure you give it to yourself.
Yes.
Give the best and biggest love you can to yourself. Oh, and pick up my Audible book. Pick up my book, Redefining Diva 2.0. You can get it on Audible. Redefining Diva 2.0. And Valentine's Day, hey, glad if you got to spend it by yourself, honey. Love on yourself. Buy yourself something nice. Or write yourself a beautiful poem. Or just sit down and watch your favorite movie. Pop that champagne for yourself, or that sparkling water, whatever it is. But take this Valentine's Day of love to be good to the person that really matters. And that's the one you look at when you see it, the one you look in the mirror and see that person glowing back at you. Be good to that person.
Thank you. Yes.
And one more quick thing. How can our followers, our viewers, support the Divas Foundation? How can they?
Oh, please go to www. I know it's not necessary anymore, but I'm old school. Diva.foundation. Go to diva.foundation. And we are right there. You can also follow me on Instagram, the Sheryl Lee Ralph, THE Sheryl with an S, Lee Ralph. And you can also find the links in the bio and all of that. But if you search my name, you will find divas. I think when you look up in the dictionary, diva, you'll find Sheryl Lee Ralph.
Yes.
Most definitely.
That first one that pops up in Wikipedia.
There she is.
Thank you.
One more quick note. I mean,
yes,
it may have been 12 years ago, but you know how Jeff brings in, people to help when you need them most. He brought me in, and I was actually, I remember shuttling back and forth to the LAX to pick up some of the divas for the program.
Oh, God bless you.
And one that stuck out to me most was when I went to pick up Hattie LaBelle. She was sitting down. She didn't have her shoes on. Then when she saw me coming, she said, "Oh, hey, baby, come here. Let me hold on to you while I put my shoes on."
That made his day. I never heard the end of it.
I will never forget it. And then
thank you.
Yeah, and then I think
thank you for volunteering with us.
Absolutely.
Because I could never ever do 30 years of Divas Simply Singing without people who volunteer, who have helped me come this far, believing in the power of love.
That's what it's all about, love. At the end of the day.
That's it.
That's all it is. God is love.
And we are love too. We just try to repress it, but that's all right. We're gonna some people. But anyway, let me shut up. It's gonna be all right. Everything is gonna be all right. I love you all. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. And we want to thank all of you for joining us here in the BTW Rainbow Room. But until next time, keep on showing the world
that love is love.